having the relationship with the sisters and the founding folks for our organization that are still alive and well and thriving within our group. I think it's amazing that they gave up their sponsorship to be able to continue the ministry itself as a whole. They knew that they needed something bigger to be able to continue to further the ministry of what they were trying to do to serve the disenfranchised and the poor, while furthering the ministry of Jesus Christ, which is crazy. I'm not a practicing religious person most of the time. I should be doing it more, but just to be connected to that mission, to see them. I had the privilege of going out with one of the sisters here in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago, driving around and ministering to the homeless in the morning, which was amazing, to go on a electric trike bike with the sister, handing out coffee and hot cocoa and gloves and socks to the homeless while they're on the street. So it's pretty amazing to be connected to that kind of journey.
There's a major crisis facing healthcare facilities management. We have aging employees, aging buildings, and aging infrastructure. We've created the Healthcare Facilities Network, a content network designed specifically to help solve for these three pressing issues in healthcare facilities management. We bring on thought leaders and experts from across healthcare facilities management, all the way from the C-suite to the technician level, because at the end of the day, we're all invested in solving the aging issue. Thanks for tuning in. Look at our videos. You will find that as a theme across our content. This is the Healthcare Facilities Network. I'm your host, Peter Martin.
We are here today to talk to Stephen Strovers, and Stephen is the System Director, Facility Operations and Special Projects at CommonSpirit Health. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. Thanks for getting up on a Friday morning and talking, although you've probably been up for a while. I'm doing well, though. Thank you for asking. So I'm going to set the table real quickly before we start our discussion. So this is a little bit different of an episode that we're doing on the Healthcare Facilities Network today. We're going to be talking to Steve about employment opportunities within the FM function at CommonSpirit Health. And I think, as we've said a number of times on this network, and Stephen, you and I have talked before, and I know you're in agreement, with such a shortage of available talent out there, we need to try to get to that next generation in different ways. The old job description that you throw out on LinkedIn, it doesn't always work, and it takes a variety of manners to hit the people you want to hit. And so that's why we're creating this special employment show today with Steve and with CommonSpirit. And just as a bit of background, Steve's going to explain how CommonSpirit evolved and how the organization came together. But back in my recruiting days at Goslin Martin Associates, we worked, Jack and I, my great business partner, Jack Goslin, Jack and I worked quite often with CHI, Catholic Health Initiatives at that point. We never did work with Dignity out on the West Coast, but we worked with CHI, Dennis Smith and Skip Smith and Andy Bumavoya and so many great leaders. And I've liked working with CHI. I liked your mission. I liked the organization. I liked the people. And so, I reached out to the folks at CommonSpirit and said, hey, I would love to help you guys promote your opportunities, tell your story, because I think you do have a unique story to tell. And everything's about fit these days, right? Everything's about finding that right organization that fits your ethics, your morals, where you want to be, where you want to work, that makes you feel good. And so I'm really happy that Steve was able to join me today and talk a little bit about the various opportunities that you guys have on a system level. And Steve, just to set the table, first question, if somebody doesn't know CommonSpirit, which I would find that difficult, but if they're not sure who CommonSpirit is, what CommonSpirit is, can you give a sense for scale, for scope, and even how the organization evolved?
Yeah, and most definitely. I think for us, we're still battling through what that merger looked like. There's a lot of barriers for what happened after 2019 when both of those large organizations came together. We are now the third largest healthcare system in the country, right behind Kaiser, HCA. We are the largest faith-based not-for-profit healthcare system in the country. So we have 169 hospitals. We own, I think, about 139 across 22 states. We have business in 24 states. I think it's close to 2,500 care sites throughout the organization. Since the merger, we've added the Mountain. They're the only ones branded CommonSpirit, with the exception of North Georgia, which just opened. Everything else is still their house of logos. So people still out here in California, they still recognize us as Dignity Health. In Texas, it's CHI. Up in the Northwest, it's Virginia Mason Franciscan Health, or Virginia Mason Medical Center. All of those different logos are still there. It's part of CommonSpirit as the whole. We even have a joint venture overseas with another facility that we help with. So yeah, it's a very large faith base. We're run by the Catholic Healthcare Federation. The sisters are still around, the 17 women religious group that kind of came together and founded CommonSpirit, which is based on scripture, 1 Corinthians 12:7, for the common good, right? The gifts are given to us, the manifestation for the common good. So it really sinks in. When I came to Dignity / CommonSpirit 13 years ago, somebody told me you'll like faith-based. I'm like, it's not for profit. There's no big difference. Having the relationship with the sisters and the founding folks for our organization that are still alive and well and thriving within our group, I think it's amazing that they gave up their sponsorship to be able to continue the ministry itself as a whole. They knew that they needed something bigger to be able to continue to further the ministry of what they were trying to do to serve the disenfranchised and the poor, while furthering the ministry of Jesus Christ, which is crazy. I'm not a practicing religious person most of the time. I should be doing it more, but just to be connected to that mission, to see them. I had the privilege of going out with one of the sisters here in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago, driving around and ministering to the homeless in the morning, which was amazing, to go on a electric trike bike with the sister, handing out coffee and hot cocoa and gloves and socks to the homeless while they're on the street. So it's pretty amazing to be connected to that kind of journey, and we're still there. So I think we have some market share to get going. We're kind of working on that branding effort as we speak with some other parts of our business, but it is a little bit different. And then I think for us, for CommonSpirit and the facility side of the world, most large-scale healthcare companies are matrixed organizations. Who reports to who, whether you're Kaiser's, HCA, or others. I think what's a little bit different with us at CommonSpirit, our facility managers and directors are national employees that report directly to us on the facilities management side. They're dotted line back to the local facilities, dotted line to all of the other people that they serve. But I write their evals, not me, but our team writes their evaluations. We meet with the local leadership about what we can do to help improve that. We're trying to engage a little bit better and really live by our mission and vision and collaborate with our local operators. So I think that's a little bit different for us than others. I think a lot of other organizations have gone back and forth. Since we've merged and we've started to kind of to do that, it's worked out really well for us. So.
Wow. There's a lot there, Steve. And I say that in a good way. I want to go back to something you said first, but I guess if you've given, how long we've been talking? I don't know, 5 minutes. Like there's 3 major differentiators that you hit on within the first 5 minutes. One of them, faith-based, not-for-profit. I've worked for a for-profit. I've worked for a not-for-profit. There is a huge difference. I mean, you know this. So faith-based, not-for-profit, large organization, countrywide, and faith-based that's lived. And that's what I want to go back to first, because I was going to ask you, you were talking about how within the organization, when you came to the organization, you're like, well, how does it manifest itself? And you gave a great example of going out with that sister. So you literally went out to the homeless and tended to them. How old was the sister who you went with, and how was that received when you guys did that?
I think the full scale for me, and this is a personal story. So one of the things that CommonSpirit allows us to do is to donate back with, whether it be PTO money or whatever else, to the ministry, to the sisters. So here in Sacramento, the Sisters of Mercy are still thriving. They have a Mercy Foundation. I happen to be able to be donating a little bit of PTO over the last several years. It afforded me the opportunity to get connected to a couple of ministries that they serve. So one is Crystal Ray, which is a Catholic high school system across the country. There's 40 high schools that they minister to. I happened to get to go to work or one day and go see them here in Sacramento for their campus. The other part of that was to find Sister Libby. Here in Sacramento, there's a large homeless population, and here we have a ministry for Loaves and Fishes, which is a large homeless camp, so to speak, where they bring them in. There's a mustard seed school for the children, just trying to make a difference and do that. Sister Libby stopped that. She was running that when I got into the organization. She used to volunteer there. She was actually a veteran in the Air Force and started volunteering. She has a degree in social work. And so she started to volunteer at the Loaves and Fishes. And they said, hey, you should go talk to the sisters. And she became a sister through that program.
Wow.
Took over Loaves and Fishes as a whole and ran it for, I think it was 17 years. And then started what she calls the Mercy Peddlers over the last 6 or 7 years. Now she has over 200 people all the way down to Stockton, where they do the same thing, where they literally take bikes. She has donations of food and shelter, and then she goes out and serves them. What was really interesting is I've been giving to the Mercy Housing group, and they somehow lost their affiliation with Mercy Foundation. So that's how I got connected with the Mercy Peddlers. And they said, hey, would you like to go see what happens? I said, absolutely. Let me sign up. And so we struggled to get that to go with weather and other things. She goes out 5 days a week, every morning from 8 to around 10:30, serving the homeless and serving the ministry for that. And then she has, like I said, 200 or so volunteers. There's a storage shed that she has down here. And then they service the homeless from that. So, and then, like I said, so for me, the full circle was, part of their ministry is if the homeless folks want to get off the street, they're clean, they're sober, they reach out to her. She pays for their deposit to get into a stable house or apartment. They go find it. They come back to her and they say, hey, I've got it. So one of the last people that we were downtown serving, he came running up to her and was so thankful to Sister Libby for him being able to get off the streets. She gave him the deposit. And was able to get off the streets now that he's clean and sober. And so, and he's actually at the Mercy Housing, which is one of the other things I was donating. So to see how my involvement, again, so minor, but makes an impact on somebody's life was huge. And that's really where the connection for me is deeply rooted for me.
Boy, that's a tremendous differentiator. I have to say, kind of personally, my aunt Mary was a Sister of Mercy, and so she's deceased now, but she was of the older generation, so the big, like when I was a little kid, boy, she scared the heck out of me, and I think she probably still scared the heck out of me until when she died, because they're not sisters are strong, they're tough, they got a backbone, it's a tremendous calling, tremendous.
It's huge. My wife, who now works for us, but one of the award dinners we went to one time, one of the sisters gave her like the centerpiece, and she still had them on until she passed away recently, unfortunately. But she was just amazing, just an amazing. Sister Kathleen was just a beautiful person, just 4'9", 80-pound lady. But it was kind of crazy. My wife also took the kids when they were young down to the Sutter house here in Sacramento. And they had an old VHS tape actually rolling about the Sisters of Mercy and how they came into the Sacramento area in California. And there's Sister Kathleen on the video. And my wife thought it was like such a celebrity moment. She actually busted out her phone, recorded it, sent it to me. She goes, hey, look at this, Sister Kathleen. Like she's some celebrity, right? So that's the connection I think that we have. And again, in each of our markets and areas, I think it was 13 facilities that were non-Catholic that are in its own separate group, but all part of the same good, whether it be in Bismarck, North Dakota, all over the country. So we've done a few studies along the way and asked our folks to kind of give us the connection to the ministry, the mission. What spaces do they have? Sacred spaces. Those that are non-faith based still have areas of sanctuary for others, whether it be a Zen garden or other things that they have. We have chapels throughout a lot of our facilities. There's a Muslim prayer room in St. Luke's in Texas, for Baylor St. Luke's has a Muslim prayer room in a Catholic hospital, it blew my mind a little bit. But again, it's more about inclusive and the diversity that they want us to do. They live by it, and doesn't matter what the legislation and what the politics of the world are. They want us to include everybody. We accept all, we want all, and we want to service everybody. So that's really what separates us from others.
That's tremendous. And I do want to move on to your opportunities. We could get stuck here talking about this, but when you were talking about the Bismarck, North Dakota, I think like St. Alexis out there, Kevin O'Neill. So this is before you guys became CommonSpirit. Kevin O'Neill was a regional director for you guys, Minnesota, North Dakota. He had the upper Midwest, and I know you guys have kind of changed regions and all, but I remember Kevin telling me that there was a facility, I think in Minneapolis, maybe Twin Falls, it might be called. But it's in Minnesota, it might be Minneapolis. But he was telling me, this is what you reminded me of this, Steve. He told me like the nuns who were there, they used to make caskets, like wooden caskets, beautiful work, and they would bury. Obviously, I think it was the nuns or the people in the caskets that they made adjacent to the hospital. Yeah,
exactly. I think it's Devil's Lake up there. Yeah, no, we've had a few. There's some really great stories, and again, I'm connected here in Sacramento just because I've been around for a little. With the sisters here, that there's a convent up on Auburn up here that they kind of retired to. We have a assisted living facility, so as they progress, right across the street from Mercy General is the assisted living facility that the diocese and the sisters kind of go to. When they need help for those kind of things. So that full circle of how their ministry is and what they give, it's incredible to see that they give up their entire life to serve the ministry. And so to be connected to that mission, again, whether I'm completely in and religious wise, it's not that. It's about the mission. It's about being able to serve what they started. And that's what really resonated with me when I started. And it's still there today. I still remember when we were doing some work at Mercy General, salvaging a piece of stained glass they had received, a donation, and it's now sitting in the front lobby of Mercy. Well, not the front lobby, one of the lobbies, I'll call it, a prominent place for people to see what they had as far as a gift. And so I wanted to make sure that we highlighted that and continue that, just that focal point into the future. So it's pretty cool. Like you said, just to be connected. So. Yeah, that's why I do what I do. That's why I continue to kind of speak to it. I manage up as best I can for any of the things that come up. When I talk to a new applicant, it's the same thing. I tell them kind of my story. I tell them how the ministry is and the connection that they have. I think that resonates with a lot of folks. One of the things that we do, and we'll talk about it later, is with BYU, I never understood how the connection could go with the LDS community, but it's about the mission. And so the fact that it's Catholic, they didn't care. It's because it's serving a greater cause, a mission. We got a lot of military, same thing, right? A lot of us veterans had a sense of mission, and this provides that. It kind of fills that hole for them when they come into the organization, because that's what they're used to and what they've been serving for a while. So.
Yeah, well, you're exactly correct. And I'm just kind of thinking back to, when I was recruiting at Gosselin Martin, and this because you hire people all the time.
Yeah.
The fit is so critical and so important, because if it's not a fit, they're not going to work with you. And, going back to that, the Minnesota example, and we were recruiting for Kevin at the time, and he told me that story, and I would always tell that story to the people I was recruiting, because that's a little insight into the organization. And if somebody's like, big deal, well, they're probably not going to work well with you. But if somebody's like that's something you can connect to, and that's what we're looking for these days, like a connection, a little bit more than a paycheck. And if you offer that, it's a differentiator.
I think for us, and this is where, again, we're not just like other not-for-profits, we're not the highest paid. We want to be competitive. It goes back and forth, the ebbs and flows, because everybody in healthcare seems to be, going after the next greatest thing. So, pay always tends to go back and forth. What the differentiator for us is really being able to have a conversation with what's the culture within the organization. What drives us? Is it about the bottom line? Obviously, we have to make our EBITDA margins to be able to be viable as a ministry within the organization, right? All of the things that we need. so that we can achieve all of the other things that we want to do to continue the ministry, whether it be our infrastructure to buildings to capital, whatever. But what really sets us is to be able to have that open conversation about what drives us and what makes a difference for us. And so when I have somebody that reports over, or I just had somebody sent me something on LinkedIn, hey, you should check this guy out. Well, I gave him my phone number, started talking to him, and I talked to him for about 45 minutes. And by the time he was done, he goes, sign me up. So, that's me being able to sell the business. It's more about what it is within our culture of the organization that really sets us apart and why we can do that. When I go talk to students out at BYU or Texas A&M, one, they want to know what it is. We expose them, but it's really connecting it back to the mission about where we can go. And then again, with our size and scale, it's how can we get them to fit in for a life. I mean, it really, if you want to do this, there's opportunities to continue to grow and prosper within the organization. And that's what we get to sell. So,
yeah, that's why I think, this is so valuable, because you don't get that off of a piece of paper. You only get that through the connection. And this is not to be a broken record, but it's a huge differentiator for somebody who wants to be a part of that.
Yeah, for us. And right now although we're going through another, understanding of restructuring, and we'll get our positions back out on the market, everything else we have, but anywhere from, entry level folks all the way up through market directors. I think, there's a couple of market directors, one at least that I know of across the country. So we're working on job descriptions to standardize that. We're working on a training program so that, I call it a train journey. If somebody comes into the organization from entry level and they want to be the grand poobah and take over our SVP's job, as a leader, I should be able to map that out for them, tell them this is what they need from an experience education perspective, and some guesstimation on time of what it's going to look like to get them through their journey on that train ride. And along the way, as they get to the next station, they may need to get off to get some more experience and exposure, and then they can hop back on to the next level when they get that. That's what I should be able to do, is get them, where they want to go. And sometimes it might not be in the same direction, right? Yeah. Within our organization, because we are so large and different parts of the business they can get into, they can jump off the train and get on to the next one and still continue to move forward, instead of jumping completely off and getting off the train and not being part of the system anymore, right? They want to go jump on a cruise ship or something. Hey, we'll help. But honestly, for us, it's about building that future and making it sustainable for succession planning and everything else that we want to do.
Yeah, I like that analogy about the cruise ship. So I know, like, if you go to Steven Strover's on LinkedIn, you have a couple of positions. I see there's a market director there. There's a director of FM. But are there any opportunities you want to highlight or talk about specifically within your purview of facility ops system director?
I don't know. For me, it's really how do I connect, whether it be up in Northwest, which I was supporting for last year, even into California, Texas. Where do we have those opportunities? My take when I actually talk to somebody, and again, I think it's just me. Not all leaders are like this. I actually go look to see where they've applied. I ask them where they want to be. Find out if, like you're asking, right? Is it a fit? Where do they see themselves? I was told by one of my counterparts I shouldn't joke during an interview process, but
gotta be human.
So I always ask, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? You've been doing this for 20 something years. You're applying for this position now. How does that fit into your journey? Right. So I do it as a joke. He goes, wow, but you want to ask him this. I'm like, no, dude, that's my style. Yeah. That's the way I am. I want them to feel comfortable to be able to tell me what they're looking for. So when I ask that question, it's twofold, right? I want to know, how does this fit into their journey for where they're headed? And then two, what's next? What are they looking to do so that we can help get them to where they want to be, right? For both the organization and for them. So that's where the fit becomes, is where can I help grow somebody when they come in, whether it be the frontline staff. We have a couple of examples of folks that I've worked with. I wouldn't say it's me, but I started, and the guy was a supplemental payer when I started. He'd been working at the hospital for 3 years, non-benefited. I'm like, And he wanted to be benefited. I said, well, I can't do it. From a business perspective, I can't afford you to be my painter. I can get a contract rate cheaper than what I can pay you for benefits, your burden rate, everything else. So if you want benefits, here's a position I can do for you. I didn't know he was going to take a huge pay cut, but he ended up taking the position as a utility engineer. We paid him to go back to school with our tuition reimbursement. He went on to get his AA and then went on to get his BS, became the hospital engineer. And then when I had an opening at corporate, I called him back because he'd done everything I'd asked him to do. I said, hey, would you like to be an area manager? And he goes, what is that? So he was running our infrastructure program for Northern California. Now he's the program manager in infrastructure. He's running, I think it's all of California and the Southwest, maybe just California. And I forget, he's on the other side of our ministry now, but he started out as a supplemental painter. Another individual that grew up from I think we hired him as a utility engineer, and he was a plumber apprentice, actually. He came into the organization. He went to get his degree because he saw what others were doing. He got his degree. He did all of our courses in our LMS, our learning management software system. And now he's a manager at one of our hospitals, which is an incredible story to me, right? Went through the journey and didn't take the shortcut. He put in all of the work that he needed to get done. Now, what I would like to do is be able to chart that out and go, all right, this is what he did. This is how long it takes about, these are the things you have to do. And,
I was going to ask you that, Steve. How long did it take him to go from when you became the utility, from painter to area manager? What was it? Do you know the duration?
So I started in 13, and then he came over to work for me in about 19 or 20. So about 7-8 years.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. And then the manager, again, if you think about some of us, some of the studies out there, Simpler, I think, is putting out information because they've done a lot of research on this with Steve and Jake, right? What does it look like? They came to the organization, talked to us about, hey, it takes about 15 to 16 years trajectory from going off of the tools to get into leadership typically. We want to be able to circumvent that and go a little bit faster because I can't replace the number and the demographics that we have today. We're all fighting for the same individuals, right? The same bodies.
Yep.
And I don't have time to do that. We don't. We have over 10% of our workforce today. If the pot was right and the politics were all good and financial was all good, would walk away from the organization today because they're above the IRS minimum. That's 10%. We have I think it's over 1,200 employees within our facilities management group. I don't have 120 bodies waiting to come in.
Right.
And if you think about leadership and other positions, we're way behind the times. When I got into the organization, into the corporate world, right, I was focused on my little hospital. When I came to corporate, it opened my eyes up to all of the demographics that we have within the system. We were then at about 9% were aged out. We had 45% roughly that were in the next, I think it was less than 10 years, so over 55 at that time. Today, fast forward 7 years later, we have more people in that upper bracket.
Yeah.
Nothing bad. It's just that's where we're at.
Right.
And I think it's over 50% of our workforce is over 50.
Wow.
Over 50% of our workforce across the nation. So imagine if I don't build something today that's sustainable for the next guy. I have a few years left. Thankfully, I'm fairly young compared to some of the other folks we have working for us. I'm in that next echelon, right? I used to joke about it. Again, Andy, others kind of beat me up because I actually sat in a room. We did a Shark Tank idea a few years ago, presented on an idea to create a talent pipeline. We didn't win. Unfortunately, I think they all said it's because I offended them. I sat in front of our entire leadership team for national real estate, and I said, look around the room. One, I can't see. I need my sunglasses because the glare from your head and the Q-tips that are out there in the audience. And they all looked at me like, Q-tips? They didn't figure it out till later. And I learned that actually at a church service. The gal in front of us, older lady, she goes, I think you guys are in the wrong service. And we're like, what are you talking about? This is the Q-tip service. Because it was all the older generation, the traditional service. we belonged in the contemporary one where it wasn't as many Q-tips, she said. So I was like, so I used that, and people, they started talking about me greasing my hair and dyeing it, all the other things. But it was really to illustrate the point. Listen, we need to embrace, how are we going to start doing things different? The next year, one of the other, my colleagues said, hey, we should dust this off, talk about the talent pipeline for facilities management, just facilities management. And so we didn't win again. He quoted me from the year before on Q-tips, but tried not to highlight that part. But really, it was about, we wanted to create a pipeline. We want to create management training positions. We want to create interns. We want to start to do something. And then we were told, just go forth and do it. We didn't know what we were approved for. We didn't know any of the details. We didn't have a budget. We didn't do it. We just started to create a curriculum, and we started to hit the street with colleges. We were focused on leadership because we were struggling for those. Today, a year later, we have 2 facilities management trainees, one in Colorado, one in Arizona, that are starting to work through our curriculum, all the things of what it looks like to become a facilities leader, right? A facility manager. We're trying to get to the interns for the frontline staff to come in as well, right? We have a lot of union activities, so we don't want to circumvent that. What we want to be able to do is just promote what we have.
Right. And
the opportunities across the ministry of where we can. Eventually, I think we'll have, with our learning management software system, more of a full development of program from entry level all the way through. As we standardize the job description, we'll be able to build the curriculum, all of the necessary things from a education and experience perspective to tell them, here's the job family, here's what you need to do to get to the next level, and here's all of the coursework you need to do. And then to supplement that, as they want to get into more leadership stuff, we have our tuition reimbursement benefit that was huge. I use that myself. And then we can help them get into that program. My journey, and this is, again, just sharing personal stories, because that's what I think connects us to our people when they come work for you. I came off the tools as a plumber, steam fitter back in the day. I was in the Navy, toiled around for a couple of years, and commercial building, didn't know what to do. And somebody said, what about colleges? I'm like, okay, well, let me go see. So applied for colleges. We're like, wow, hey, they have central plants. They have all the piping systems that I dealt with in the Navy. I'm like, this is, and I honestly, I tell the story with people within healthcare because I thought I started my career back then. My brother and I celebrated when I got an interview to go work at Stanford University. I hit the big time. I'm working at Stanford. And then I got into healthcare years later when somebody said, hey, did you ever think about healthcare? And I'm like, again, what am I? I'm a plumber. I do pumps and piping. What are you talking about? I walked into the first hospital and they had firebox boilers like I used to have on the ship. And I'm like, wow, it all resonated with me. I'm like, man, I missed the boat, man. Why are we talking like that to get people like me to come into the ministry? Well, healthcare specific, right? Not just my ministry, but just healthcare in general. How do I help map that for other, whether it be veterans or trade schools or other things? People don't know about healthcare facilities management, and we don't do a good job at selling it. And in the past, and I've not embraced over time, starting to get more involved with ASHE and CSHE and all the other organizations, but we don't do that. We're kind of the good old boys where you got to know somebody to get in. And then once you get in, we don't have time for that anymore. We really need to go out and market and communicate all of the opportunities we have within all of our industry. Healthcare facilities management, a huge industry. Again, I'm partial CommonSpirit because I love the mission, but I don't care. When I go talk to somebody out on the street, I just talk about healthcare facilities management, about what it does for you, what kind of a career you can get out of it, and how long-term and the longevity of what we can do once you get in here. It's your choice. And once you get in, you can stay here as long as you want for the most part. As long as you're performing, doing your job, you can have a really nice life for your family, provide all of the opportunities, and continue to grow and prosper. And again, I'm probably not the norm. I went from a facility supervisor back in 2003, became a director without a degree, did all these great things here in Sacramento. And then when I came to corporate, I could not ask others to do what I wasn't willing to do. So I went back to school, I got my undergrad, got my MBA. Along the way, I got my CHFM and did other things. And, magically, I took every opportunity that presented itself. And that's the other thing I do is I don't back away from opportunities. So that's really what I tell others. you're never going to be perfect for any role that you're doing.
Exactly.
As long as you can get most of it and you can do all the others, we'll help you along the way. Most organizations will invest all sorts of resources, time, money, education to help promote their people. That's what we do. We want to engage, and we want to start to get them to get their buddies in and help us continue to help our organization thrive. That's really where what we're trying to do, from the technician all the way up through, like I said, the grand poobah, right? I want my replacement. That's what I'm training for, is I want to promote somebody to me. When I leave, that there's somebody already ready to go. There's multiple people ready to go into our roles, and we haven't done a very good job of that. And I think that's where we get to do it differently, because we are national, and so we get to see how they're performing across the ministry and start to help them and identify where we can help them fill in the gaps, right? And then give them the guidance on, again, they don't have to. They don't want to take on the market role. Okay, stay at the facility. We're good. But hey, I want you to help build and teach the next guy that comes in, so that we're not eating our young like we do in healthcare most of the time, right? Just take the job, and then we just beat them up for days and then not give them the resources. We want to make sure that they're stable and can perform within the organization for us. So
if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the network. And more importantly, share it with your colleagues in the healthcare industry. Together, we can solve the aging crisis that's impacting all of us.
We started the Healthcare Facilities Network when I was at Gosselin Martin, because, I would sit there, and you guys are great. You talked about education. CommonSpirit bring your people to ASHE. You allow your people these learning opportunities. It stands out because you see the CommonSpirit folks there. But, like, you sit there at ASHE, so you'd sit there 2017, 2018, 2019, pre-COVID, and everybody's talking. Like, back then, you're like, okay, the gray tsunami is coming, and everybody's talking about it, and I'm obviously gray. But, everybody's talking about, but, like, we just don't promote this opportunity. Kids don't know that it exists. Like, people coming out of the military, like you said, they are perfect for this role. Yeah. But if you don't know it exists, you're not going into it. And we don't have that luxury anymore to kind of sit back and say, hey, I hope they find us. Yeah. They're going to be in pharmaceuticals. They're going to go to a data center. Like, they're gobbling people up. And so
huge.
You're right. That's part of the reason. And the other thing you touched on, which I think is, and I've had a lot of discussions about this, and we've talked about it at the Healthcare Facilities Network. You didn't have your degree. You have your degree now. But CommonSpirit hired, like, they didn't, I worked with so many organizations, they'd see somebody who didn't have their degree, and automatically, like, it wouldn't matter if they were a plumber, and if they, if they were a trades guy with their licenses, automatically, no, they can't work here, they don't have their degree. We don't have that luxury.
No, I think it's been able to find you hit it earlier when we're finding the right fit. Can I do that? I don't need somebody to be the perfect facility director anymore. If I want that, one, I'm waiting for the unicorn that's never going to be there. Two is I can't competitively pay them well enough to the other. So really, what can I do different? I tell our organization all the time, you got to at least give me a hook and a line to fish with. But my job is to go out and sell people on what we do and how we can help fit their needs for both. Again, I was fortunate. Sutter was really good to me back in the day. I was able to promote within, do a lot of great things through hard work. I did it in the military, right? You just put your head down, just go to work, get it done. Yeah. Just show results, and you'll be able to do it. Sutter was very good for me in that regard, to go from a supervisor, I think it was a master plan project commissioning coordinator or something like that, to the facility director, right? Along the way, got to open and commission my own energy center, which is pretty crazy. Which again gave me the experience and the confidence that I could put in for the other positions, right? When I came over to Dignity Health at Mercy General, I was the EOC director, and they saw the construction experience to do it without that degree. And I had some great COOs. So again, I've been very blessed, and maybe I am that unicorn, but I believe that if you have people within your circles that are helping to coach, mentor, and sponsor you. And I had a couple of COOs at Mercy General were like that. My former VP, before all of the shifts happened, saw that and was the same thing, was just amazing to come in and goes, hey, you can do this. And I'm like, all right, well, I will do it then. Thank you. And was able to take over Northern California, 13 facilities, which is crazy, while I was getting my degree. So I went back to school, got my business degree in healthcare facilities management, or not, healthcare management, not facilities management, healthcare management, and then got my MBA, again, talking to them, the COO, asking for their advice and their opinion on where they see I could fit within the industry, not just with CommonSpirit, but in the industry. Because, hey,
Sure.
MBA would probably be better. Perfect. So I just finished off, got my MBA. And then, like I said, now I get in our world for an old facility guy to go talk to
Wait,
kids.
You're not the Q-tip generation.
Yeah, not yet. I use wet gel so it doesn't look so bad. I don't have to bleach or dye my hair. I use wet gel. I still got it in my beard. No, so to go out to talk to kids, and I call them kids because they're younger than my children now, and talk to them about what opportunities that we have, whether it be lighting the lamp for somebody at BYU or the kids at Texas A&M or any other school that will have me. We've talked to Temple, we've talked to others, and it's all because of what we're able to do within this organization and across the industry, right? This is what you can do. And then again, I think the other one that we miss out in healthcare is we are not going after those CFMs, the IFMAs, the BOMAs of the world, that, getting that and creating that crosswalk so we can be a little bit more, enticing for them and market that a little bit better. But we don't. We kind of sit back and we're like, oh, we'll just let others. And we all want that 20-year veteran guy.
Right.
He's been in the industry. He's gone through 8 joint commissions, and this is the guy we need. You're like, oh my gosh, we're fighting for the same candidate. We've got to be able to do something that might make a little bit difference for him. So I would prefer, in my opinion, for our group to actually start to work towards that first line and even our entry level positions so that we can grow and help them into their journey of where they want to go, versus let me go get the guy that's been around for 20 years that is, highly competitive. It's just not going to happen. No. And we have to fit him. So, and again, what the differentiation for us is, if I grow somebody here in California, I think our first transfer happened right after we merged, which was very painful for that individual because we didn't know how to do it yet. So he went from, I think it was Las Vegas to Kentucky, of all things. We didn't know all of the consequences of what all of our barriers we have within the system today. We figured that out a little bit better. So now if somebody wants to lead between the two, because we're on all these disparate systems, ERPs and other things, we've learned that we can't do that to individuals anymore. So, hey, if you're in on this side, we're going to keep you over here. Until we get to one, we've kind of figured out we don't want to do that. But again, if I have somebody in Northwest that wants to go to Utah, which we've done, he gets the position, right? He gets promoted, or it's a lateral if there's an opening for it. It could be Texas to California. Somebody doesn't want to live in California anymore because we're such a great state with all of the things we have going on. They want to leave. If we had facilities in Texas that want them, they have the ability to do that. The position's open. Hey, I'm a facility director in California. I'm going to go to Baylor St. Luke's. I want to go to the Woodlands in Texas, wherever. That's what our size and scale offers these folks to be able to do that. And it's one system. They still report to the national program. So it's just changing who they're responsible for. It's not always easy, but we can do that in the system. They don't change anymore. They don't have to apply, reapply, and go through the pain for all of that stuff. We kind of figure that part out, which again, it's good. Whether it be technician level, as we build those standardized job descriptions, the same position, Tech 1, Tech 2, whatever we call them, will be the same in Texas as it is in California, same in Northwest. We'll build it upon some of the things we have to deal with. We have some representation that we kind of got to fall in line with to make sure that we're not overstepping in that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we would love to be able to create our own apprentice program and start to get people in from the high school level. Like I said, when I go talk to folks out on the street, it's not completely altruistic. I would love to say that I went to Crystal Ray because I just want to be part of their system. No, I did it so I could get connected and go, hey, have you ever thought about healthcare facilities management, right? There was a student, one of the guys that actually works for me in Colorado, graduated from Crystal Ray in Colorado, and he never heard of facilities management. Didn't even know it existed. He went to go get his, I think he's got his master's. I forget what it's in. It might be just an MBA. And he was working for our IT group. Didn't work out, got laid off or whatever it was. He applied for one of my positions as an operations analyst and had no idea what this industry was about or what this side of the ministry was. Like, wow, 40 high schools across the nation. If I could just go talk to 20 of those high schools, imagine if I just got 2 or 3 or one person from each one of those would solve a huge gap for me. And so as we start to do that within our leadership team is where do you guys have connection, right? So we have folks talking to University of Nebraska. We have others talking here in California to different schools. Where can we actually get the word out? And it doesn't always have to be me as the mouthpiece, right? Here's what we offer. I think for us is being able to have those positions open so that I have the ability, if somebody so chooses and they're the right fit for us and we think that we should be investing in them, I can immediately put them into position. That's what we don't have yet. We'll get there. I think we're getting closer to having that internship continuum. We had 5 last year. I had 4 interns working for me over the summer. Nice. One converted into the management trainee position that we were going after. So it's starting to work. Yeah. Now we just need to continue to expand. And then, like I said, in the industry, if we can get others, I know folks up in Michigan, right, on one of the other task force, they go to Ferris State. They just get interns. I'm like, is that an official program? No, we just call them up and we just get somebody. Yeah. Like, So I think if we all embraced in our industry to do something similar, it can't be all the same. And, you never know. I know that our learning management software group is working with another healthcare system. So we collaborate a couple of times on some of those things. So they're building something similar to what we have, but we don't market it, right? You go, Ashley, we know the silver tsunami is coming. You can call it all the different names and taglines. We all know it's coming, but what are we actually doing to solve that? And there's only a few organizations that are really embracing that challenge and doing something. And that's really where I get excited every day to be able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody when they call. And they're like, hey, I saw this. And I'm not good. I'm an old guy. So LinkedIn is terrible for me. I have to actually force myself to embrace that message. But that's where our kids are at. That's where, I don't want to be on Instagram, TikTok. I got to draw a line someplace. But if I have others that can do it for me, that's really what it was. So when this opportunity came in to talk to you, it was that same thing. It's how can I be the mouthpiece, not just for CommonSpirit, but for our industry as a whole. Hey guys, get off your keisters and let's go do something. You too. I submitted for Ashley this year. I might even submit for Sishi this year. I want to make it to where we get others excited to do the similar things. They'll figure out their twist on it or how they want to do it, but how can we start to do that as an industry? I think Ashley's missing the boat on some of it. They started a pilot program in, I think it was Louisiana this year. They had 10. I don't know how it turned out for that kind of the internal apprentice program that they were going to pilot in that location. I know others are working on other certifications and other things we can do. But I think as a whole, as an industry, it's not mapped out for anybody to know how to get into it, right? That's really where we're missing.
And I know, like Owensboro Community College, Mike Canales and the work they're doing. He's another guy who's been heavily influenced. I was going to say, so much of what you said is right. I've been thinking about this honestly since like 2017, 2018, because the recruiting world, you see it. And I have a list of people. It's a small community, right? I mean, there's 6,100 hospitals. So, a lot of people, and honest to God, I still, we use a CMS system, but I also still use, an Excel spreadsheet. And honestly, I'm starting now, I'll put deceased next to folks or retired. And that list is growing, and it grows and these are people I would talk to all the time, 2014, they're gone. And we don't have anybody coming in. And one of the frustrations that I have with organizations, and you hit on it, when I was recruiting, they'd say, well, can you get me a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer? Or they'd ask for a PE. And I'd be like, listen, I can't create them. I can't wave a wand and give you a mechanical engineer. Yeah. Right. No, so you got to be realistic to the market, and you hit on it. I don't think healthcare always is. We kind of live in this world where we're the number one driver, and that's just not the case anymore.
Not anymore, not at all, right? It just really, and I think that and again, not to bash all the organizations that we belong to, that's really where over the last several years is for me to get involved. I can't talk crazy about it anymore if I'm not going to do something. My daughter taught me that, even with some of the things that, in the political world of all the things that have happened over time with COVID and all the other things that people believe. But she really said, well, you can sit back and say something, but you're not doing anything. So really shut up, right?
You started the conversation talking about the mission of CommonSpirit, and you've kind of come full circle. And I know you said you're out there recruiting for CommonSpirit. Obviously, that's who you work for. But like on a mission basis, everything you're doing is just bringing a spotlight to it. So you get some, maybe they're not going to CommonSpirit, maybe they're going to a competitor, but at least you're helping to fill that void.
I want them to actually think about it. And I tell them same thing, whether it be students at BYU or wherever. If I talk to anybody, it's like, hey, listen, here's the parallels of what you've done. Here's where opportunities are. I think the other thing that we do not a really good job at is we call them differently, right? Plant operations, facilities to whatever, right? The naming convention is so goofy. And so, especially for a military guy, I have no idea what any of that stuff meant, right? Until I got into the industry and I was like, oh, hey, it's the same, knucklehead. But I didn't know that coming out. So if you're doing a Google search or Indeed or any of these other platforms, you'll get a myriad of different things and you have no idea. They're kind of written a little bit differently. So you're like, what is that?
Exactly.
It should be all the same. We need to get better at it and really start to talk through it. And again, it's not about our competitors or our other industry leaders. It's about how can we solve. We all have this problem. It's not getting better. And it's not just healthcare facilities management. Population as a whole is changing. And if we don't embrace what's going to happen with all of the baby boomers and all the generation things and you hear about it, our population is starting to straight line. It used to be a nice pyramid, right? It's now not like that. So nurses are going to compete. Healthcare is going to compete across the industry. Other industries, and right now, tech is the biggest one, is driving everything, right?
Yeah.
And we're competing for those same resources. So what's happened is schools have done everything about college. You got to do this, kind of shifting everything that we do. And we haven't been at the table to talk about it from a healthcare facilities management, going after the same people. Everybody needs to go out there and talk about it. And again, if I can help others, and again, our buildings will change. We all know that, healthcare is getting better. I'm still going to need a hospital. What's in the hospital might change. I'm still going to need them at the end of the day. So what does that look like? And how do we transform that so we're ready to go for that next workforce? So healthcare for us is going to be changing because we'll be doing more stuff at home. So what does that look like? I need more clinical engineering. I need this. I need that. It's just going to shift where that work is. I'm still going to need them. It's just going to be in a different environment. Right. So what can we do to help promote that and get people into our industry as a whole so that we can help serve all of the patients that we're going to need, right? All of our parents that are going to need help and care in the near future. That's what we want to get ready for. So
final question, Stephen Strovers, thank you for your time. CommonSpirit and the impetus of this episode is to get people to check out CommonSpirit, look at all the opportunities. So Steve, if there's somebody's watching this and, I'm thinking, you're exactly right. Like guys our age or up your age, I'm a little older than you are. They're not always on LinkedIn, but the younger generation is sometimes on YouTube. Somebody who, like you've been talking about, doesn't know this opportunity exists. So if that person's out there, say they're 30, they're listening to you, they're like, oh man, I like that mission. And there's opportunity there with CommonSpirit for me to grow my career. Where do they go? Where would you tell people to go to learn more? What should they do? How do they get in touch? What's the best way for somebody to start to see the journey for working for CommonSpirit?
That's a great question. I think LinkedIn is the best. I mean, obviously commonspirit.org, our careers website. We actually have our own, this year it was actually very exciting. We have our own little landing page now for national real estate. And so it's kind of good. We even have a veteran landing page for folks to be able to change their MOS or their rating that they had in the military. It links them to whatever opportunities we have within CommonSpirit. We're recognized as one of the the leaders for veterans to be able to come work for us for those specific things. But as a whole, I always give people, when somebody applies, and again, I might be a little bit different because I really read their resumes, find out what they're looking for. If they have any resemblance of facilities management, I reach out. And if they're new to the organization, whether they've done other industries or other things, I reach out to them and then I give them a list of all of the things that they should go look at. ASHI, CSHI, or their local chapters. I give them IFMA information. I give them organizations that they could get connected to today. Again, just to give them the ability to do a little bit of research. And then what I always leave them is call me back. One of the things that I'm probably pretty crazy on, even when I email somebody, I have 2 links at the bottom of my signature page. One is for our careers webpage, which is first. And the very bottom, if they actually read through the whole thing, is a link to my schedule. It's literally a link to my schedule. I open up to everybody. I shouldn't say that to vendors, but there is ability. If they get an email from me, they can schedule time and have a conversation about what it is. And then my wife tells me I shouldn't do this for free, but I don't know how else to do it. So it's really just about talking to individuals about where can I meet them in their journey, and then help sway them in what might need to happen. Because we're not in every state. I don't have facilities in Alaska, Hawaii, upper Idaho, Montana. We have employees that work there, but we don't have facilities that work there, right? So we have employees in Connecticut, of all places. One of my CMS guys works in Connecticut. So we're not in all of those areas. So where can I help them get them connected to their local teams? And that's really through their local chapters with ASHI, with their state chapters, and how can they start to bridge that gap and ask those kind of questions. So I think if we all kind of helped each other out on the contact page, we could be our best recruiters for each other, whether it be Kaiser with others that reach out. Local guys reach out all the time. Hey, I'm not looking, but if I find somebody for you, I'll be first to call you and say, hey, this is somebody you should probably look at. I think if we did that a little bit better, we would be able to serve not just, my company better with CommonSpirit organization, but our healthcare facilities management as a world a little bit better, to be able to have those conversations, frankly, and not have to worry about, I'm helping the competitor. No, I'm helping the industry. I'm helping to serve a greater cause, which is bigger than CommonSpirit, which is bigger than healthcare. Serve those that need it, those that are vulnerable, that are sick and need help. That's what I want to be able to create, is that next person.
Every one of us, no matter who you are, we all need hospitals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody escapes, right? Nobody escapes. So Stephen Strover, System Director, Facility Operations and Special Projects for CommonSpirit Health. I appreciate your time today. You create a compelling case. And I one last really question, because I know we got to go, both have meetings to run to, but I'm listening to you say what you do to kind of push this. How much of your time is taken on, like you have a system job too? How much time are you taking on the yeoman's work of publicizing the opportunity? It sounds like you got to be doing a ton.
I did for a while. I think it was a little bit more, again, with budget constraints and all that. But whenever I can, my wife will think I'm nuts because I'll take calls at 6 a.m. I'll take calls late at night. To me, it doesn't matter. I don't really track it. Honestly, it's more about creating the internal stuff. That's what I get to work on. I'm very fortunate. Before this meeting, in fact, to talk to you, I was working with our learning management software group about what's the next thing for us. What's the next version of better? How do we expand it outside of our vertical within facilities management operations? How do I serve the ministry better with our national programs, our planning, design, and construction folks, our real estate team? How do we start to create really a curriculum that works for all? And then I can point them to that when we hire somebody. Here's all of the things you need to go do. My orientation becomes better, that connection back to the ministry, teach them about the ministry, right? Here's all of the sisters. I mean, that's one of the things I've been very fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to talk through with our leadership team. And we're really starting to embrace the connection back to the mission, to the sisters, of what they started 150 plus years ago, that we want to continue to help thrive. So, I spend a lot of time on it, but I don't know. I don't really track it. I spend usually a couple hours a day looking at something or talking about it, but that's just part of what I get to do. I'm very thankful for the position that they've given me to be able to advocate and talk through that. I've been able to go to conferences, I mean, we're one of the only ministries or one of the only organizations that actually has a booth at ASHI.
Yes.
And it's not just for putting the marketplace out. It's been for recruitment efforts to just introduce CommonSpirit out to the industry as a whole, and that's through PDC and ASHI, and really have a booth every time for the last couple of years on that. It's been very fortunate that our organization wants us to do those kind of things. So.
And it stands out. It stands out. And your passion, Steve, is admirable. So Steven Strover, System Director, Facility Ops, CommonSpirit, CommonSpirit.org. Even though anybody knows, like, I feel like an old guy saying CommonSpirit.org, right? How many people who are watching this are like, I know what it is. But anyway, you feel like you almost have to throw it out.
Absolutely. I know. I appreciate it. Again, the other house of logos are still existing for now. So you'll start to see that change here in the next few years. So.
I love that phrase, and I am going to remember that. House of Logos. That would be a great episode. I don't know what it would be about, but it sounds like it would be good. Maybe a reality show or something.
No, it's again, when you go to school and you kind of learn some of that puts the push to it, right? The marketing plan that we have to do. Yeah. Marketing includes the communication, right? It includes all of that. So as we start to think about it, there was a conscious choice about how we were going to do that. So we actually marketed it within our own organization of how we were going to do this and how we were going to kind of keep it going. So, it's kind of crazy. Very fortunate. So thanks, Peter, for your time. Welcome to all that listen. Hopefully there's a few folks that, get a couple of nuggets out of this, and look forward to helping people.
If you're mission-based, give Steve a call. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
It's Peter Mark from Healthcare Facilities Network. Thanks for joining.
If you want to be a guest on a future episode of the Healthcare Facilities Network, go to healthcarefacilitiesnetwork.com and let us know who you are and what you want to talk about, because together we can solve this critical aging issue.